What are the most important issues to Bexar County citizens? Do they think their elected officials are doing a good job? What do they think about the companies that provide our power, our water, our mass transportation? As of 10:03 this morning, we are asking those questions in a scientific way, something that hasn't been done publicly in Bexar County in at least 20 years. Today, we announced the KSAT Rivard Report Bexar Facts poll. I'm joined by part of the Bexar Facts Brain Trust now, Christian Archer. Again, we can't say this enough. No agenda, no slant, no tipping the scales, just the facts. The Bexar Facts. And this is something you and I have talked about for a while, Christian.
You know, Steve, I think well, one, we've been talking about for a number of years, and I think that it's a really important tool for public policy makers, for community to feel like they've got a role, and that we make sure that with the poll results that we get back, that we share it with everyone, so that there's complete transparency about the questions that we ask, what the answers are, and really help everybody understand what people think are the most important issues facing the community.
Yeah, and it's transparency right down to the demographics, how many people were questioned, where they were questioned from in Bexar County. You know, because what's important to somebody on the northwest side may not be important to somebody on the southeast side.
I think that's really the key to a good poll in the first place, right? I think most people want to know what's the head-to-head. It's Steve Spriester versus Christian Archer, who's winning the race. But the truth of the matter is, what really matters, the facts of a poll are in the crosstabs, so that you can look at demographics. There might be a certain demographic when you think of transit and when you think of the Marriage Transit Initiative. There might be certain segments of the community that really support it and certain segments that really don't. And so this way you're able to look at men and women, the north side versus the south side, and even deeper demographics than that, to be able to find out who really supports it, who's questioning it, who's against it.
So let's bring out the elephant in the room, or the donkey in the room, whatever you want to say. You have been involved in political campaigns.
I have.
You ran Phil Hardberger's campaign. You ran Julian Castro's campaign. You've run, Letitia Vandepute's campaign. How can you assure people that are watching this at home that this does not have a political agenda?
Well, the truth of the matter is the agenda will be driven by the data that we gather. And so we've got to ask smart, good questions. We've got to be transparent about whatever the answers are, whether we like them or not politically. So I don't really have an agenda. I think the agenda really gets driven by the data. And so as we go along with our series, Steve, over the coming year, that if transportation is one of the top issues, that the public says, hey, this is super important to be focused on, that our next poll does a deep dive into what they told us in the first poll.
The pollster that we're using, Dave Metz.
Dave Metz is one of the best pollsters in the country. The name of his firm is FM3. He's done a number of big polls for this community before. He was the pollster on Pre-K for SA, on Propositions 1 and 2, the Edwards-Aquifer Protection Plan, a number of political polls with me, but very bright guy, Harvard trained, one of the best pollsters in the country.
One of the vital things about this poll is we want a diversity of opinions. We don't want politicians, but we do want people who have served different roles and who are concerned and want to know what direction the city and the county should go. And with that in mind, I want to bring in a couple of other members of the Brain Trust of Bexar Facts right now. DeMonte Alexander. DeMonte, thank you for being with us. You're kind of a community outreach. You've done stuff with the city. You've done a lot of different things, MLK March, a lot of different things. What's your role going to be?
Yeah, so my role is going to be focused on engagement and outreach. I've always been passionate about speaking to people where they're at. And there's a lot of pockets in Bexar County, to be honest with you, that still don't have the resources and information needed to know what's happening around them, to them, or even for them. And so this platform gives me an incredible opportunity and responsibility to take the data to the people and let them weigh in on what that is. That way they're doing this project with us.
Yeah. Lisa Baratichia, did I say that right?
That's great.
Okay.
Good try.
If I said it fast, it would work. All right. You have a policy background. I mean, you've worked for Governor Perry. You've worked for a number of different people. Your role in this whole thing?
I mean, public policy has been what I've loved doing. I've been doing it for more than 20 years. As you mentioned, I did work for the governor. I worked for a number of local elected officials at the city and county, and have spent a lot of time working at the Chamber of Commerce, advocating for business issues and being the leader of the advocacy for the business community for almost 10 years. Have spent the last 4 years advocating for the hospitality tourism industry, specifically for hotels. And now it's this great opportunity to take a bigger picture, to be involved in a different level, to make sure that the institutional knowledge is accurate, to make sure that when we're asking questions, we're not trying to take them in a direction that it might not naturally go. I want to make sure that we're doing a good job of educating in order to ask the appropriate question to get the real, bare facts. And that way we can continue moving forward with the information that we get will drive us to the next questions and to the next poll. There's always a struggle of trying to reach people, to pull them in, to get their opinions, to show up to vote, to get them to weigh in. There's so many efforts, campaigns within campaigns, to try to get people's opinion. And here's an opportunity where we have the ability to go and ask people what they really think, in a very clean, unadulterated way, right?
Yeah. Christian, you wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah, I think it's really important. We're not taking positions on certain policies. We're really putting it out there so that the policymakers can hear from the voters. And I had met with a city council member who had, suggested to me, hey, look, this is so great. I would never be able to get this data myself. And so while we're not taking positions on certain policies, we're able to provide the policymakers with the opinions of the public on a science-based, fact-based data gathering effort.
Because as we put out this poll right now, DeMonte, we're talking, the big issue, obviously, aquifer protection, via, saws. How does that work? Part of the questions that we're going to ask is that even really important to the average voter out there?
Right. That's why, to Lisa's point and to Christian's point, it's important for us to reach as many people as possible. So folks will be able to weigh in via our website, via our social media platforms. We're going to do Voice It, Change It forums where we're taking our data and our facts out to the community and hearing what real people have to say about this information. And I think that's what's going to be important, and it complements what they're saying about providing this information to council and also the county side of government as well.
Yeah, and Steve, to your point, we can ask people what are their priorities without saying, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? We can find out what's keeping them at night. Is diabetes and chronic health? Is it gun control? Is it the homelessness issue? Right? Like, those are issues that may not necessarily be on the referendum, but how much of those issues are we public policy-wise addressing, and are we doing enough to meet the people where they are? And this is going to give us a snapshot of that.
Yeah, and in the interest of being transparent, because that's also a big part of what this whole thing is. There's no secrets here. I want to show some of the samples from the poll that actually went into the field this morning. And this poll will be revealed. We're going to reveal the results on
February 11th.
February 11th.
Right.
And it'll be all over KSAT, all over the Rivard Report. But let's take one of the sample questions here that we have. In general, and this is going to be kind of a baseline question we're going to ask. We take a poll 4 times this year. This is going to be one of the baseline questions. In general, would you say things are going in the right direction, or would you say they are off on the wrong track? Thoughts behind this?
Well, obviously, we want to know how people view the city and the county government, 2 different entities. Are we headed in the right direction, or are we headed in the wrong direction? And Steve, the exciting part about this and the relationship that we've built together is that every 3 months, as we do a poll, you'll be able to plot that on a map so we can see trends. Is the city going in the right direction over the next year? And be able to plot 4 points on that graph.
Is there a momentum behind a certain issue?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Another sample question I want to take right now is favorability ratings, which is favorability ratings for people and organizations. Example, Mayor Ron Nirenberg. Do you think he's doing a good job or not? It's a question that's really that simple.
Sure. And it is simple, but again, as you look at it and track it over time, as these big initiatives, Pre-K for SA is likely to be on the May ballot, right? And so we'll be able to give and provide a snapshot of what it looks like today. And so, when I ran the Pre-K for SA campaign, we did 2 polls, and neither one of the polls showed us passing the election. So we knew we had some work to do to get people educated. And again, that's a tool that we'll be able to provide public policy makers and the general public on general attitudes toward the city, towards certain elected officials, and even more importantly, to big initiatives facing the voters.
Yeah, and Lisa, it's basically also not just elected officials, like we said, we're going to have the mayor on there, the sheriff on there, but also entities like CPS Energy, SAWS,
VIA.
How are they
Yes.
perceived in the community?
That's exactly right. And again, we can also track those to see favorability. What's the people's impression of those entities? Can they reach them? Can they access them? People will be able to assert some of those. And where, right? And the demographics behind it. Where in the community are people feeling more favorable or less favorable? And what does that mean to those entities? And how can each of them do something about it, right? Is their message reaching the people, someone on the far southeast side of town? We'll be able to see that.
And the next, go ahead.
Oh,
Chris.
I was just going to say an important piece of that is what Lisa was just talking about. When you look at the Mayor's Transit Initiative that is likely to be on the November ballot, there might be certain segments of town that really support it and segments of town that really don't. For the viewers, for the KSAT viewers, for the people that follow bearfacts.org, they'll be able to go into the details and the demographics around the city and be able to say men, women, Hispanics, African Americans, Anglos. Where's the support coming from and why?
Yeah, and you've all three been in rooms where people are trying to figure out what their constituents want, what the people that are voting want. How do you do that when there's no scientific data out there?
Steve, I think that's the facts that we're going to be providing to public policymakers, people that are potentially going to run for office. A lot of times they don't have the luxury of a poll that has got this level of information in it. And so I think that it's a great tool for public policymakers, people considering running for office, for real people, for organizations to be able to tap into, to say, hey, real people care about what we're focused on. And the facts are in the Bear Facts KSAT 12 Rivard Report poll,
right,
that they're able to point to it and say, see, they wouldn't be otherwise able to do that because these polls are expensive.
And something that we also haven't talked about, the big crux of this is civic engagement. We want this to be able to boost the level of civic engagement across Bexar County. We know we have low numbers when it comes to turnout, and we hope this is just another tool, like Christian mentioned, that will get people excited and get them passionate about being part of their local government.
Yeah, and people know that they're being listened to,
Absolutely.
and that they do have a voice,
Absolutely.
not only at the ballot box.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that we're talking about is voice it, change it. That this is a powerful tool for the community. If there's something that they think is important, to voice it, and then let's change it. And this is going to be a platform and a tool for the community and for policymakers to use as the blueprint on what needs to be done and how we need to progress.
And we want people to participate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Steve, I think that there are other opportunities. Lisa had mentioned transit in detail, but pre-K is going to be coming up. There's going to be the transit initiative and the popularity of the Aquifer Protection Program. We had talked about being able to vote for 2 of the 3. We might be able to find with some of the data the open-ended questions, where we just ask a question and the respondent is able to say whatever's on their mind. We're not going to provide them a list. So, we might be able to find other really exciting things that just aren't on the top of the list.
Right.
Usually when you do a poll, you're going to find education and transportation and public safety and crime, especially when you provide a list. But when you ask an open-ended question, we're able to get down to the source, down to the regular person, to say what's the most important thing to you and to the future of this city. What matters to you most?
It could go from potholes to prescription drugs. I mean, it's really an open-ended question that I'm glad is in there.
And then our future, right, with the future polls, we've got an ability to take the next poll and do a deep dive into those issues.
Yeah.
I think transit, obviously public education with pre-K and aquifer protection are going to be at the top because they're discussed so much across the community.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to also find some hidden gems in there as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where the data takes us.
Yeah.
DeMonte, Lisa, Christian, thank you for being with us. Voice it, change it on February 11th. We're going to show it. The Bear Facts poll comes your way, and you're going to hear plenty about this poll between now and February 11th.